En las redes sociales de hoy en día, el contenido de calidad a menudo pasa desapercibido. A los usuarios se les paga por la creación, evaluación y conservación de los contenidos de calidad. Los creadores de contenido son recompensados según el compromiso y el alcance de su publicación o comentario. Los evaluadores de contenido son recompensados en función de la velocidad y los resultados de sus predicciones. Los propietarios de la comunidad son recompensados en función del compromiso dentro de su comunidad. El contenido de calidad se paga.
What's up, DENDAO? Welcome to the weekly governance call. It's June 9th. Time's getting away from me. And I'm here with Joe Dragon, and we are going to talk about the most recent stuff that happened, like the DENDAO prioritization vote for features, new features coming in. And then we'll have whatever feedback we can get from the community to discuss and see where it goes. So just a reminder, this is every week. This is a DENDAO meeting. It's one of the live streams or the Den streams that are not necessarily a show, but a meeting. And it's open to everyone. Excuse me if I cough a couple of times while I'm here. And at the top of, as usual, at the top of the post in the DENDAO layer on Den, there's a link for you to join if you want to come on and talk about anything related. So when you do that, just send us a message in private chat. You'll see what that means when you get in to the other side of that link, and let us know when you're ready to come up, and we'll bring you on. So good afternoon. How you doing, Joe? Looks like we've got I am for I am that's going to come up in a bit and talk to us as well, which is great.
Right. Right. I'm good. Everything's good.
All right. Let me go ahead and bring that denizen on.
Yes.
Hello. I see you're back in your closet.
I'm back in my closet. I'm still in the doghouse with the wife because I haven't finished a few honeydews. So she's banished me to this small closet that you see before you.
All right. Well, the smallest part of the house. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming back on to talk to us. You always have really good input. We kind of got off on a kind of a governance conversation yesterday on coffee.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. So always good to chat with you and anybody else who has input. So I was thinking we could talk first about the results that we have from our DENDAO vote. So those are in, and I'll go ahead and bring it up. I had to go back through and remind myself what all the colors meant on the options, because I was confused. I was thinking it was trying to tell me that I had 100% of the liquidity or something, and I'm like, no, I don't, because it does appear that everyone who is providing liquidity on Uniswap has voted for this feature. Because if you look at it, it says 100% of the liquidity providers on both sides, on Lore and Matter.
Wow, that's
voted
pretty good.
for this. Yeah, so pretty overwhelming response of let's do this one. If you look at the percentages, you know what I mean? So cool stuff. We'll be able to get some use out of our tags that go beyond just tagging what the content is, you know? Yep. So Joe, do you want to talk about kind of, I guess, two things? There was a discussion already about doing like a first pass instead of spending time to get like the full vision of the API implementation and all that stuff. Because I think we can get some useful, important features out of the smart contract, lay down the foundation to come back and robustify it later. And then we could move on to something like maybe then we could have anonymous postings that's not like scary.
Right. And yes. So it's important that people know that I think it's a good process for a DAO to kind of do what we're doing here. You get the priorities as wished by the members of the DAO, and then try to do the bare minimum of that thing, roll it out. For one thing, just on the technical side, it's better for testing. It's better for not trying to change too much at one point in time. so we can see the effects and realize, wait a minute, there's this edge case bug, and little things like that before you roll the whole thing out and have a lot more to evaluate. So in this case, this could be a pretty large change. It could take us quite a while because we're talking about building out an API, building out the deployment infrastructure for these smart contracts, and how do people pay for them, because they will cost money to run, and how do people safely deploy these so that they wouldn't be there wouldn't be the vectors of potential security risk that you might, because if you're talking about running code, right? So do we do it as patterns? Do we do it, so if I have a layer, is it something that someone builds and it goes through some evaluation to make sure it's a safe thing, and now anybody can run that in their layer? I don't know. So for the very first pass, we're going to kind of hit the things that we know are needed for a bunch of pre-existing things in the layer creation process. That there's at least one. There might be more than one, but there's at least one that requires some level of this tagging automation, where certain functions can operate based upon the tagging evaluation. So that's one, and we have the new customer that came on that also cited to us that they thought they might need some help with the moderation. Potentially, they were worried, that something could happen beyond their control, and this helps with that. So we're going to basically roll out a very I hope it's a very simple change that effectively will watch a certain set of site-wide tags, and abuse, not safe for work, and spam. I think were the three that we were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On and
each of them will have a different, specifically different use or
Right.
effect.
Yeah, and I think unless in development we find something different, I think that anything that's marked not safe for work will only hide a picture or pixelate it or do something to obscure it behind a click. As soon as it gets consensus that says, "Oh no, it's not," that was wrongly tagged. As somebody tags something that is a picture of something entirely normal and reasonable, and the general consensus is no, that's not safe for work. It's fine. Then it'll just appear, and that tag will be turning pink and then red, but it could rotate back. The tag could come back, and as long as something is has a greater than 50% consensus that it is not safe for work, the picture will be hidden, but it will also be clickable with, there'll probably be a warning there with some reasonable thing to say, hey, this has been tagged as XYZ, whatever, potentially even saying the consensus, so that I could click on it and say, oh, I'm going to vote. No, I'm going to vote that is not safe for work or is not. And I think you'll have the exact same thing with spam and abuse, except that the entire content will be behind that click, including, if somebody didn't put a picture in, but is saying that, Joe's a racist, homophobe, bigot, horrible person, should be hanged, right? That something like that might be abuse and would be, hidden, but with the same thing, where if the consensus is that tag is correct, then it will remain hidden. And if the consensus is that it is not, then it will be open. Now, the thing that we might, as a DAO, want to talk about is, are there any other generic actions like this? Like, let's say someone posted something that is possibly illegal. It could be, the really bad side of stuff on, Gore or something else. And should we have another tag that would effectively let it go to either admins of a layer or to admins of Den to evaluate, and you can't even get to it through a click until it's
something that kicks it up?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to do that, because you have the issues. You always have to think the other side is, let's say that somebody that I don't like has posted something that is entirely normal, good content, and I know that it's competing against a post that I made for matter generation, and I tag it and it loses ground for a few hours while that eval happens. How do you handle? And there's a more complex side of it that if people do attack the system that way, that they should lose reputation, or maybe even the scoring of that flag would consider boy who cried wolf mechanics, right?
There should be some sort of, and maybe a reputation, another reputation, like stars tagging. Or whatever, tagging. Yeah. Because there needs to be, like, I think it should be public who tagged that. Like, if it's a smart contract action, I think it should be public that, like, okay, this denizen tagged this. And so that way, patterns of abuse by intentionally mistagging can be obvious. You can be like, oh, it's the same person who keeps doing this.
We might even want to just make the tag votes. Why wouldn't they be transparent? I mean,
well, that might come with a different, like, proof reports feature or something like that. I don't know, but
I mean,
I don't know.
They're just not they're not public because we just didn't do that. I mean, it's all on chain.
So here's something that I just thought of. We're trying to figure out how to fairly and effectively make it to where people don't spam tags anyway.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make it to where, like, if you could see, for example, if you saw it was always the same two people who put 11 billion tags on every freaking post in a layer, then what would probably end up happening is the people that do that repetitively, like, maybe first people can just DM them and say, hey, maybe you don't understand how tags work. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. The community can just step in at that point and be like, oh, it's this person. Hey, you realize you're, like, hurting yourself here, right? This is not how it works. And if they keep doing it, then they would probably get banned from the layer eventually. People would see that, they would click on their name and be like, freaking stop, please.
Yeah.
that
you might be able. You might be able even to, and I'm going to look in the rep system. If it's one of the things, voting, tagging is not. We could add tagging to the rep system and essentially make it so that a particular person just couldn't tag, just like we could make it so they can't post, right?
Yeah, so that would be separate from their voting reputation. And then the voting, you still wouldn't see who votes on the voting, which I think is fine. That's good.
Yeah,
actually, that's really a good idea. That's a good
it's good to see how many people voted and, like, what direction and all that stuff, but maybe not expose who voted in the actual vote part. But the tag, the tags put it out there.
And that's the other thing too. We could, I've already told a lot of that tag spam stuff is an issue. Like, say it doesn't. It does not affect, I will say, if I spammed a whole bunch of tags right now, I don't get any rewards from it at all. And I'm only disincentivized. I only get negative value out of it if someone goes in and says, no, which doesn't always happen. So I might not even be disincentivized, but a lot of it can be an UI fix where we just don't show them all. We rank them. And maybe if you're tagging rep, which we could calculate, if your tagging rep is low enough, that maybe it takes that into account when it's displaying them. So instead of it being a one vote, you have a vote, maybe I have a 1/10 of a vote because most of the time I'm wrong in this layer, right? I don't know. That's kind of a complex thing, but it's we have all the data for it.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned a lot there that to think through. You've obviously been thinking about this for quite some time, and you're the right person for the job. But here's one question that I had or thought. When you mentioned that maybe it would roll up to the layer admin person, whatever, my thought was, what about these inactive layers where that admin person is nowhere to be found?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know why someone would be posting things that would be
I could think of the
inactive layer.
Well, intentional damage, that kind of thing. Right. I was thinking that would be moral. Oh, you were talking to Joe, I guess. I'm sorry, I jumped in.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was thinking more along the lines of basically being kicked up to DENDAO for review. Like, because I'm thinking legal situations. You know what I mean?
Ooh, that's not bad. But then who has, I guess it would be anybody with a vote in DENDAO could evaluate it then, couldn't they?
Right.
The issue with it is always going to be, though, the potential that you have 1 or 3 or 5 people who are orchestrating a legitimate attack.
And I guess on the other hand, there, I'm basically talking about installing a central control over all the layers to a degree, which is not what we're after.
Yeah.
Well, it was worth saying.
It's like they could. I mean, a layer could. Let's say, here's something you could do, and this would actually help us with inactive layers. That, let's say, every layer would be required. You give them a window of time. You're required to vote in a series of admins, right? So let's say you have to have 3 at least, or something like that. So the people who are actively involved in that community, right? So you vote them in. An inactive layer doesn't vote them in. So goes dormant, shuts down. You can't post anything. But the people who have lot can go in and say, oh, crap, we didn't realize it'd be closed down. So then they go in and they vote in their people. It turns back on. Now, let's say an issue comes up, or we even potentially maybe Den itself posts a question. And it's the same thing. If those admins that are voted in to handle these edge cases aren't active, then it goes dormant again. Boom. And it kind of shuts down, right?
That's interesting. That is interesting, because so what you're saying basically is each layer would vote in who they want to handle, like abuse tags or whatever we end up calling the one that you can't click through, the one that you have to actually
flag.
look at, and the red flag. So you vote in, okay, who's gonna, like, okay, hey, Jacob Wayne, you're in the Texas layer a lot. Can you be that role in the Texas layer? And they would all, that layer would vote that person in. But then, like you said, the inactive layers would potentially deactivate if that never happened.
Yeah. They can always come back as long as they, go through and say, okay, we have to find some people.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I like that. That's good. Keeping it inside the layer is,
that's
ideal. Key. It's ideal, and I think it's key from a legal perspective, probably from
maybe
the decentralization and keeping the people in that layer responsible.
Yeah, especially if this is going to because if let's say a DAO comes in and they want to use it, they don't want us controlling, their anything in their DAO. Fuck that. So yeah. Cool. That's the way it should be, I think. And the deactivation of layers. What's funny is, like, my friend is gonna not notice that, and then he's gonna call me one day and he's gonna be like, "Why is the maker layer deactivated?" In like a year.
Well, honestly, the inactive for just, if we're talking about, well, no, I guess you're right. We're talking about solely deactivating a layer because they didn't vote in admins, not deactivating a layer for its inactivity. Completely different.
Right. Correct. Yeah. And I think, and that's why, in the terms of how, in having a layer, even an LCP layer, that maybe you would get a heartbeat transaction every 6 months or something. And that is what determines if, we have to basically check, maybe it's every month, we have to check that your admins are still watching. And if they don't answer in a certain amount of time, it shuts down. And it's like, if nobody's posting anyway, maybe it doesn't matter. Now,
I think that's really good for messaging too, because we really are saying, hey, this is a different way to organize communities. And the requirement is people have to work for it. If you want to participate in this, you have to govern your community yourself. We have the features for self-governance, but you got to do it.
Yeah. And that, as opposed to the anti-squatting model for business layers or branded layers, where right now they are not charged on a subscription. But that is the next step, that even if you paid for the layer, you have to, I think it's in lore, that there's a lore amount, that
a lore fee. Yeah.
If you're totally inactive, then you're going to pay the max fee. monthly or whatever the period is. I don't know if it's weekly, monthly. And if you have a certain level of activity, and like say when we get the layer ranking and layer measure in place, that if you're one of the top in maybe the top 50% of layers, or maybe it's the top 25%, then you pay nothing, right? Maybe it's top 10%. I don't know. And then you have the range in between. So the more active your layer is with users and content, and essentially generation of matter, the less you will pay as a business or brand. So
all the way down to 0, right?
Yep.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Yeah, there should be a threshold where you don't pay any fee. As long as you're this active,
Exactly.
you don't pay anything.
Yep. And just that way, when we get that the layer ranking in, I'm very excited about it, because it's going to be very obvious competition between these communities.
Oh yeah,
really cool. So
yeah, and well, just yes.
That's what and that's what I was hoping that Reddit did back in the day when they were talking about tokenization way back. They had everything they needed to do it, except for the creative insight. Maybe, I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, we're going to get this done as fast as we can, and then the next step will probably come back and do the vote. So we'll hopefully be able to get to another feature pretty quickly. So,
on that.
Sorry, I interrupted somebody there too.
Were you saying something, I am?
I was just going to say, so yeah, because the smart contracts, it's so huge. It has so much potential and so many places, and so many things that could be written and done. And that would be my only concern, that we just stick on this smart contract for 4, 5, 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it is very broad in the way it's written and what we could do with it.
Right.
And that would be my only concern, that I hope we come back and circle back and say, okay, we already completed A, B, and C, and 1, 2, and 3. We still could do this, and this, but we should probably bring that back in as a DAO vote. That is my only other concern. That was actually my only concern with the smart contract vote, was it seemed a little open-ended. But as I said in the coffee show, I said my big eye-opener was when I saw that one post with the 2 fingers over the nipples. I certainly wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of chuckled at it, and I wasn't offended at it by it in any way. It was one of those aha moments, like, whoa, we're not protected this way.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think we're all, the 3 of us, or at least, and people that I haven't had any debates where somebody was against this, I guess. But I think the first pass method of getting something, roughing it in, and then circling back to add all of the complex API level stuff later is the way that we want to go. Because like everything on this list, I want this, I want this, I want this. You know what I mean? So it's just getting flagging is a huge feature in itself. And so the rest of smart contracts can be circled back on, I think.
Isn't this sort of flagging though?
Fragging?
Flagging.
Fragmentation?
Flagging.
Flagging. F-L-A-G.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's essentially the first pass at it. It's the simplest pass before we know what to do with the extreme stuff or the custom stuff, right?
Yeah, because the end result is I want to be able to, have a chat bot that's plugged in with a smart contract that's responding to, at chatbot for, certain things and all kinds of stuff like that. So those are all different features that we can smush together.
Give me a whatever else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or if somebody, I was just looking at the bookmark ones and just thinking what we could do with that. I have no idea, but it could be that like on the leaderboard, you could show the top bookmarked pages post or something like that. You know what I mean? Like which ones are the most highly bookmarked kind of thing.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So cool. So that's in. Oh, and what I was going to say a minute ago was there was at least once we talked about potentially instead of waiting for a feature to be done and then doing the vote, to just like do it monthly anyway, so we always know where we are as far as like
shifts.
sentiment in the community about, if we were finished working on current feature yesterday, what would you want us to start working on now? And having that as something that's always sort of, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it was interesting.
Well, that's a great question. So if in week 3 it's completed, implemented, most of the bugs have been worked out because it's been rolled out to the community, whatever, and we haven't completed our voting, do we just give the devs a week of vacation, or do they move on to whatever came in second place in the vote?
Yeah, so I will say some of the normal inefficiencies and ugliness of process control that essentially what we've been trying to do is put the question out when we're close to being finished, so that as soon as, by the time the question resolves, they will be close to finishing. They might have a few days, plus there'll always be debugging, and they're always coming back asking, hey, we'd like to refactor XYZ just to clean up some code. Can we do that in between? So there's always stuff to do.
Sure.
So it kind of works out itself, but
for example, the T Swift or Dies request that is seems like what most people want will probably fall into that category of somewhere along the line, put the words back in. I don't think it'll be a DENDAO feature,
right?
You know what I mean? Happen. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Occasionally we'll say, hey, we didn't realize that this text said this. It should be better, more explanatory, a better, more understandable text if you changed it, and they'll just do it. They as an example, I think we voted on this way back. We put it out the info that because of Ethereum fees, Den was actually blowing a lot of money with the nightly mints, right? Or where the difference between minting and mining, that on Ethereum the tokens are minted and then the mining occurs internally. And so what we did is we separated those two actions, because the contract already has a functionality that if you miss the time, the short window of time to call the mint function, and by the way, anyone in the world can call it. Den doesn't have to call it, but it does cost money. That if you miss that, the next day it'll do the appropriate amount. So if you miss 3 days, it'll mint 3,000 matter. If you miss 10 days, it'll mint 10,000 matter. So instead, what we're going to do is call that once a week, and that we're going to just say, okay, there's enough matter in Den's fee wallet to cover a week's worth, 7,000 matter. So we're just going to call it once a week and have a 7x efficiency in the Ethereum fees. So,
that's great. It also actually gave me a quick question. So let's say that
so real quick before you say it. So we just finally implemented that because the engineer that does most of the back end work had some available cycles. So we were like, hey, we should go ahead and do this. So anyway, sorry.
Perfect. So let's say that the merge takes place and it creates a problem on the Ethereum network. What would be the impact to Den? I would think because it's on Dragon Chain, we wouldn't have much to worry about. We've already minted MTR in advance. So am I correct in that assumption that it would have maybe little impact?
Yeah, the conversion, so long as the standard ERC20 contracts don't have any issues, and the same thing with LOT on NFT contract standards, which we have to assume that that's going to be one of the most tested parts of the switchover. As long as they don't have any problem, we shouldn't see any problem. If there was a problem, let's say Ethereum takes itself down. I mean, what we would do is we would take that last snapshot and we would swap everything over to a different network, Solana or something else. Who knows, right? So Ethereum Classic, right? I don't know. But you would be able to essentially do a proper swap based upon everything already being on chain.
Yeah, that would be a really weird situation that would need some careful thinking too, because if it went down and if it went down, they're not going to walk away. They're gonna do like a Luna thing and relaunch it, that kind of thing, or an Ethereum thing and relaunch it. So the concern. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. I was going to say I don't anticipate any kind of downtime or extensive downtime. Worst case scenario, maybe an hour or something like that. Is something unforeseen.
It's just the thing the unforeseen part is the part that could happen, which is when you have a network switchover like that, any attack that is going to happen, especially since they know it in advance, is going to happen. So you might have somebody coming in and trying to screw with the network at that very time, which could really cause issues.
But Adena's in making postings on the Den platform. It's not going to be affecting.
No, because all of that
because that's all on Dragon Chain.
Correct. Yeah. And what's going to happen there is even if Ethereum melts down for whatever reason, then all of the transactions that are going to be like everything will be normal on Den. Den will still operate, and then they will all be they're still all going to be secured to Bitcoin. Bitcoin will still be up, So
And Binance Smart Chain, by the way.
Oh yeah, I forgot we've got BSC. I don't really care about BSC so much, but I think it's neat that we've got it tied in.
I played with it a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I that's where I go to gamble because they have cheap transaction rates, and then there's
BCH,
not financial advice.
Sorry, I'm way off on tangent. Smart BCH did that as well. Did you know that? Essentially, there's a Smart BCH that's basically Binance Chain.
Oh, interesting. No, I did not know that.
Neither did I. Wow.
Is it by BCH? Is it them, or is it a fork
I think it's a fork of Binance smart contracts or something, but it's on for BCH, and so they have a DEX and they have all kinds of different things.
I don't know do you know what BSV uses or what they did? Because I know they have like their own marketplace and they have tokens on that chain now and NFTs and stuff. And there's even a company doing NFTs on Bitcoin. I just don't know how exactly they're doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So we're also on Binance Chain. Did not know that.
Yes, we are. Yep.
For backup ready.
I think that's reflected too over at
Eternal. You can see it at Eternal. We need to get that plugged. That's another thing we need to get plugged into Den. We just never have had time. We way back we had the raw proof available for any content or action, but when we updated UI, we just never built that back in. So we need to plug that in. That'd be another potential feature to add.
There it is. Binance Smart Chain. I just looked it up. Here, I'll show it off while we're here. Got an old tweet from Ottawa Police here, and it says right here, Binance Smart Chain.
Yep.
Tied in.
And if you look at something really old, you can see the old Binance chain and their Block Explorer 404s. There's nothing there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If I look at an old transaction that was on Binance.
Yeah, maybe I can pass you one. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have one at the moment. Let me see what I got. I know I've got some old stuff with let's see, bookmarks. This computer doesn't have my typical. I have an Eternal bookmarks on a different computer, but
same here.
Let's find the oldest one I've got. This one is I have no idea what it's called, what this is, but it's titled Bankers.
I'll put this here. Go to that one.
Okay.
In fact, it's the first provably fair blockchain-based entropy blah blah blah, where I gave away that keyboard.
Oh
and
yes.
It has all of the new stuff. The
Binance Smart chain. Look at that. That's pretty.
If you click it on Binance chain, see where it takes you.
So their Block Explorer didn't stay. Is that chain still on?
I don't think so. I don't know the history. I don't know what they ended up.
Interesting. Unable to locate. VNB chain. Let me see if the actual Block Explorers. Well, the Block Explorers, 2 seconds ago, it's still alive.
Maybe it's pointed to the new one. Maybe it's pointed to the new. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. Weird Binance. What are you doing over there, Binance? What are you
doing? Getting in trouble with the SEC.
Yeah, I guess.
I've not looked into any of that. I just heard something about that too. I've not paid attention. So.
Oh, that's what this one is. This one didn't have it. This was it was a useless tweet. I don't know why I saved that. Just for fun, I guess. All right. So close that. Back to DENDAO. And let's go back to, I don't think there's anything on the agenda outside of what we were talking about with all of the with the proposal.
Mobile DMs you have in the list, right?
Yes. So that's ready. I don't know if it's published yet or if it's still being reviewed by the Apples and the Androids of the world, but DMs on mobile, I'm already able to use them. It just looks funny. I guess because the API is still there or something. I don't know. Because I get push notifications and I go into them on mobile and it somehow works. but the actual version of that is ready. And so, do you know if that's? I haven't checked. Is that out yet? Or
I don't know. I haven't. I've not been able to get the whatever you call the beta version on my.
Yeah,
my
I think the
mobile.
status of it is that internally it's ready, and it just needs to get to the public. So,
okay.
And then let's see. Is there anything else that I haven't thought about that's going on with Den that we should talk about here? Let me think. I can't think of anything. It's been a weird day, so maybe I'm missing something.
I think we're good. I don't know. It was unless I mean, if IM has anything else to go over, we can.
No, I don't. I appreciate you folks.
We appreciate
can't say it enough. Can't say it enough.
Thanks. We appreciate the support. I think my takeaway from this meeting basically is that we've got our heads wrapped around how to implement smart contracts and how we're going to make it not take up a half a year for development, right?
Yes.
We've got some really good ideas about incentivizing people to help build, right? As far as activity, addressing stagnant layers with, so if part of this process means that everyone has to elect a red flag admin or something, then that should spur activity and get people to, we'll find out at least which layers don't have any lot holders paying attention. So that's at least an interesting metric.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you on that comment? Passing the lot to other admin people would be probably a requirement, correct? So, and isn't there also a 7-day hold when passing lot to someone else?
There's a hold.
So
And I've got
need to take that in consideration, I think.
There's a hold, but it's still in DEN in their account, right? Like whenever you get tipped matter, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but when you get tipped matter, I'm pretty sure it starts generating energy immediately, and the hold is just there for the withdrawal function. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's how it works.
I think that's right. I can't remember in all truth. I can't.
And so that would be the same thing for lot. If you tip somebody a lot, they should immediately be able to use the utility of that lot. There's just a hold on the token being exported, but I think exporting lot is disabled right now anyway.
But what were you talking about?
I was
electing an admin that doesn't have lot. Or?
Yes, or like whatever. I have a Willy Wonka layer, and I own all the lot, and so I want to pass off some to you, Joe, and some to you, Descent.
Yeah.
And so my point is, okay, I'm going to put you guys as admin. You agree to it. Now I'm passing you the lot so that you have admin capabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a requirement. That was my next question: is passing that lot over to you put you on a 7-day hold before you would have that power?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
But it's a good question because you would need to probably have lot as a requirement.
We probably should even talk about the fact, maybe you shouldn't have to have lot. At first I thought you should, but then it's like, then again, maybe what if you want to hire someone to handle the red flag stuff? You don't necessarily want them to own the let's say you only have five lot in the entire layer. Maybe you don't want to own them, have to give them 20% of the layer or any of the layer, but you want them to act in that way.
So they still, that's not bad either, because they still would not. So they wouldn't be able to vote or do anything that's lot required. They would just be able to. They would have a bucket of stuff to evaluate whenever they logged in to check it, that kind of thing. Yeah. That makes sense, because whenever you're assigning someone to be your admin or whatever, like we're just going to assign, like, okay, this layer's admin is this denizen, probably. That's probably all we're going to do anyway. So it doesn't
more than one.
It doesn't require lot unless we decide to make it require lot.
Yeah. And I think it should probably be something like you could add up to 5 or 9 or something of these admins. but I don't know if we require you have to have more than one or not. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. And then the admins would have a special role. I'm just wondering if there's any attack that's possible now that you have. I don't think so. I mean, if you if you conspired with like someone to do the attack you were talking about earlier, you know what I mean? If it's not a lot holder, yeah, I don't know. It would have to be an owner, a lot holder, who is conspiring to elect someone that would be bad. So the owners of the layers would have to kind of intentionally do that, unless it was social engineering. And I don't. At that point, it's a problem, such an edge case that we'll figure it out when it happens.
The great thing about it is it might be ineffectual, because if there was an attack, it would still be correctable. You could make those like, okay, repost that content. We removed that admin, whatever. Yeah, I mean, there are ways around some of the the mistakes that could happen. So,
yep, just thinking out loud a little bit on it. That's all.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. So, anything else to recap that we covered? Is that pretty much a good?
No.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. All right. Well, awesome. Let's cut it here then. Thanks for joining us again. I am Brian. Always appreciate it.
Likewise.
So, quick reminder, there are several, I've started to call them Den streams instead of live streams, just to be specific about, just to coin a term and make it a thing that identifies it's over on Den and it's not a regular live stream. And those happen, the main ones are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's the meat of the live content on Den. So watch for them in there. Tuesday is the Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and that one is hosted by Joe, and it has updates for Den and updates for Dragon Chain itself. And then Wednesday is my show, Coffee. Sometimes it's I Am's show as well, and you can swing by there at 9 a.m. on every Wednesday morning. And that one's just a casual, like, sometimes literally we just go see what people have put on Den and then give our opinion about it, you know. And the beautiful thing there is, you know, if it's on Den, it's on topic, so it can literally be about anything. So check out that and talk about stuff. And then on Thursdays, there's two shows. There's World Blockchain Roundtable, that's 11 Eastern, and then there's this show that is now every Thursday. Well, not now, 3 p.m. So yeah, stay tuned, and whenever we figure out when that layer decision needs to be made as far as electing an official to handle red flag type stuff, just start thinking about that. Who do you see in your layers that are active, that are like doing a pretty good job of being a reasonable person, and maybe think about who you would elect if you're a lot holder, because I imagine the lot holder, it's a governance decision, so it would have to be.
Yep.
Cool. So that's it, and we'll see you next week for this on Thursday. Have a good weekend, y'all.
Thanks.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best. Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A doctrinal approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.